Hey, how you doing? How was your Memorial Day, Congressman?
And spend a lot of time around my parents' grave. So it was, I don't technically celebrate it. I just mourn their loss. And Daddy
Yeah.
was a veteran, and Mama flew an airplane during the Second World War. So,
Really?
but yeah, I mean, they didn't die in the war. It's about people who died. My mom lost her brother a few days after D-Day. So
Mm.
it's kind of poignant when I talk about them and remember that. But it's good to get out in the district, and this past weekend was exceptionally well. I was knocking on doors and in the district, and that went incredibly well.
What was the chatter? What are you hearing from folks back at home?
They were on the door. If they came to the door, it was about Trump. It was about Trump. It's a very conservative area.
Yeah.
And they were upset.
Yeah.
I just don't see the positive nature of this thing for the Democrats in any shape, form, or fashion. You know, they'll play it up. I just don't see anybody that's already, against Trump. They're going to stay against Trump. But the people there in the middle, some of them are being swayed, and a lot of the minority folks I talked to too were upset about it.
Yeah. No, I have to say, like, I'm still very surprised that the ruling came down that way in New York. And based on what we've seen, especially the Bob McDonnell case in Virginia, where, he took a Rolex as governor. The Supreme Court unanimously overturned that decision and said, no, according to Virginia law, the governor is allowed to take a free Rolex. So I'm kind of expecting this thing to get overturned on appeal. But what do I know? I'm not a lawyer.
Neither am I, brother. We're both fairly honest.
Yep. Well, I know, right? Can't be honest and a lawyer, I suppose. But hey, thanks for coming to talk about UAPs. Let's start with that very savvy move that you and Miss Luna did with the Secretary of Energy. How did that come about? And why did you want to focus on energy? So much of our conversations have focused on the Pentagon and military. What brought energy department onto your guys' radar?
Necessarily Area 51, but there's another area, I think it might be 52. I'm not sure. It's over there in that general vicinity. And it is actually the security there, our Department of Energy. I mean, they're hired guns at the Department of Energy. And because I talked to a fella who almost was arrested there. He went up on you've seen the signs at Area 51, do not cross over. You might be met with lethal force kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so we know of several instances where we had one instance, it's been documented, the nuclear facility literally shut down after they saw some UFO activity in the area. I don't know if it was tied to it, but it sure was a huge coincidence. And we've seen a lot of that near our nuclear facilities and a lot of sightings near energy output areas. And so I just teed her up. I asked her the first question, and I knew what she would do, and she took the bait. And of course, I walked out of there, and immediately people are on me. Burchett, why did you get on to her about UFOs? And because I asked one little question about them, and she said no. Then she kind of smirked. I mean, she couldn't have taken the bait. I mean, it's hook, line, and sinker, man. She took the bait, and then Luna, we had talked about it the day before, but then she had about 4 or 5 instances where the lady said they didn't exist, it didn't happen, and either she's lying or she's inept, one of the two. And I suspect she's inept is what I bet. I just think it's another. They check the box on these people. They don't have any real criteria to run these organizations, and and so that's where we're at on that. They wouldn't put a. Go ahead.
Are you all going to be sending her formal follow-up questions? Because don't they sometimes leave the record open?
Good history of them responding to any of them.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's worth it. I think we showed what we thought we would do. She's not going to bring anything out, and she just showed how inept she was. and she really embarrassed herself. And the UFO community just pounded on when they saw. You know, it's funny that they were trashing me on my so-called weak questions, and then, but then when they saw what Luna followed up with, they realized what we'd done. You know, whoever had gone first would ask the first series of questions. Of course, since I was in the number, I was at the front of the line. You know, I was ahead of Luna, so she just knocked it out of the park. I thought she's very good at what she does.
And now, when it comes to the next UAP hearing, are you guys still hoping to do that like ahead of August recess?
Well, it's getting delays, as you know. I mean, seems like leadership in neither party wants this thing, but ours has agreed to do it. We just got to get a set date and start focusing on that. So I'm going to be working on that this week.
Yeah.
And get with the other UAP caucus members and make sure we've got the what we want to ask and who we want to ask it of. But people aren't going to be happy until somebody brings in a body or a craft. I mean, you know, they're just not going to be satisfied. I get it, but we're kind of limited. I mean, if the government's going to give us this standoff kind of situation, I think it's, you know, we're sort of stuck until this next election. I was pleased to see where Trump came out and said he was going to release the JFK files and the 9/11 files and something else. And so I would hope that he's on that course of just total release of these records and forget who they embarrass. I don't care. I'm sick of it. And I would hope maybe we could get an agreement with Trump. I'm going to work with some people that are close to him and see if we can get that acknowledgement from him to do that. One of his people that's very close to him has told me he's interested in it.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to that.
And now some of our folks online are a little confused about, you said the Secretary of Energy, she took the bait. What you were meaning there is you kind of opened up the door. You thought she would say what she said to your question, which was, no, we have nothing to do with this whole entire UFO issue. But then, she took that bait because you thought she was going to tell you guys something.
She went one step farther and said that they don't exist, pretty much. And her, a little snarky part of that testimony, I thought. And then I just kind of brushed it off and went on about it. I didn't think there's any at that point. But it comes, you only get 5 minutes. That's what people don't understand. And so I'm sitting up here with questions. I've got Oak Ridge National Laboratory in my backyard, and I've got questions from people back home that need some answers besides these things. And so and that's the best way to do it. Unfortunately, you can't get them to answer a letter. So, but I thought that worked pretty well.
And now going forward, I know previously us at Askapol, we reported that maybe it was Burleson who told us, or no, maybe it was you that told me, but that you guys were looking at bringing in Navy people to look more at the underwaters.
Yes. Who has come forward with some pretty incredible information. And, again, people aren't going to believe this stuff and then they're not going to believe it. But, they're not going to be satisfied that we bring a craft in, and it's just not until we figure out a way to get it, find out where it is, and that it hasn't already been moved. As soon as we announce we're going to look at it, it's over, and they've already brought the U-Haul trailers in. There's a Navy admiral who's been real vocal here lately. And, he was involved in an incident. I can talk about it now because he's talked about it on the national news that there was a sighting and he was in this chain of information, and they were saying, is this ours? Because they had aircraft up in the air and over the water, and they said, is this ours? Because if it is, we gotta pull them back because it's very dangerous for our craft. They're doing a military operation, And they're like, this isn't ours. We don't know what this stuff is. And then the next day, the emails were washed. And I think he, being a pretty interesting guy, I think he saved those emails. So it's just, the thing is, of course, again, they deny it. It's just like the Tic Tac videos. And they denied they were there, if you remember. And then they leaked them. And they said they were fakes. And then they had the audio on them, the Navy pilots, or I can't remember the Air Force, maybe. Yep. And I think the Air Force, and they came forward and said, hey, this is us. I did this. This was me. I was the guy who chased these things. And then they, they continue, and then they said, well, in fact, they do exist. And then now, I have these bureaucrats, and bureaucrat with a 25-year-old with a man bun telling me they don't exist, and they're not elected or anything. They're not military. And so, it's just, there again, you start getting that circular motion, and it just comes back to they're not telling the truth. And they just delay. And then they send somebody out who doesn't know the answers. And then, then they say, well, we answered you, but they don't know the answer. They're not qualified or read into the issue, like, as they say, like they should be. So that's part of the frustration.
You just offended everyone in our audience with a man bun. How dare you, sir? I don't think we got a big man bun contingent in our audience. And so now when it comes, oh wait, who's the name of that person? If they've been in the news, which
His name is admiral. I'll think of it. I'm sorry. No, one day, sometime I'll think of it. I'll see it. I'm sure I'll get an email from somebody.
Is it Tim Gallaudet?
I believe that's him. Yeah.
You believe that's him? Cool.
I believe that is him.
Someone said, any update? I know the UAP Caucus was looking into potentially hiring David Grusch to be part of your staff or a member's staff. Any update on that?
Yeah, we are not cleared to have any budget like that.
Really? You're not cleared?
No. And that's just, here we are in the middle of this thing. But I don't know what that would get us anyway. But it's, we'll see.
So let me clarify. So the UAP Caucus doesn't get to have a budget if you guys.
Caucus right now.
Yeah, that's your staff. That's the double team.
No. Hey.
You. If you guys got an actual committee, a UAP committee, a select committee, then you.
So they tell me.
Yeah.
Again. That's they, oh yeah, and then we get delayed. So it's more the same. And I don't know that we need the bureaucracy of that anyway. I think we just need to set on a date. After we did the last one, we all agreed on a date, and we should call the meeting.
Yeah. Do you? There we go. Now it's back on. I don't know what happened. Audio back on? Cool. Pardon me, sir. With the NDAA, what would you like to see happen with Schumer's UAP amendment? Any revisions to it, or
I don't think that's a good idea. I mean, all they got to do is say it's national defense, and then they stop everything. And that's, sort of where we're at. 60 pages of it. I just, they're going to tell me, and it's not germane to it. Mine's just a page and a half. It just says declassified if it's UFO or UAP related. Just declassified. Because if they don't exist, what are we worried about?
Yeah.
And neither one of them, they might pass something. I saw the Democrats that sort of robbed something off of me somewhere else, and they're going to try to run something through and claim victory. And that's fine. It just creates another layer of bureaucracy for us to get that information that we don't have now. And I just don't see that as an option. I think that's going backwards, honestly.
Interesting.
Everybody'd be like, "Oh, Burchett, you're against this. You're deep state. You said you were for this stuff." And I was like, well, 60 pages to tell the government to release the files. That's what you're looking at.
Yeah.
But and honestly, you honestly think that Schumer could not get that out? And he goes on the floor and rails on it. But do you not think that Chuck Schumer, I mean, arguably the most powerful man in Washington, D.C., arguably.
Yeah.
And so he cannot get that bill out, an amendment out of the committee. The guy funds stuff they do stuff all the time.
Yeah. That was curious to me too. But in my reporting, I still haven't been able to find out, Senate or House, who specifically behind closed doors asked to gut that amendment. Like even the bill's co-authors, or even the bill's authors, don't even know.
Come up for a vote.
Yeah.
So they did because of some rules or something. I don't know. They always something. And so I said, well, if you really wanted it, you should have told us. I'm like, my name's on. What is the procedure? It's like they make the rules up as they go.
Yeah.
So I just don't buy all that. I think they know it. Somebody's whispered in their ear, this is national defense, or we don't need to rock this boat right now. We're going to upset something.
Someone in the audience, UAP James, is asking if you could speak to the significance of Congresswoman Luna asking the Secretary of Energy whether the DOE works with the Joint Special Operations Command and on the confirmation of that. Yeah, what was the importance of that for you all?
I think has a very good understanding of that. She is former Air Force.
Yeah.
Her husband was a special forces type guy, got shot up pretty bad actually. And they are just to show how deep this thing goes and who all's listening to who. I think that was the bottom line. You could probably ask Luna for a better. That's what I understood from that round of questioning.
Yeah. And definitely it showed that she's either not up on it or not speaking about it. Someone else is wondering, so Congressman, I don't know if you saw it last week, but Congressman Robert Garcia, he plans to drop Schumer's UAP amendment on the floor as an amendment to the entire NDAA this go round. It sounds like you kind of disagree with that strategy. Do you disagree with that legislation?
More bureaucracy, and he's the guy that I don't know why. I mean, he's not even talked to us about it or anything, and I don't have no pride in authorship. But he is the guy that last time said that he would announce that he called for this meeting, our hearing the day before it or 2 days before, and claimed that he was the chairman of the committee or something. It was just really bizarre. So I don't know what he's up to. He never talked to us. He's not at. I don't know what he's up to. But again, I just think that's just he's playing to the UFO community, thinking this is the way to go. And again, you got to go through a board or a committee that decides whether it should be allowed out or not. Again, why is there a board or committee to decide about something that they say don't exist?
Yeah.
And why are we spending tax dollars to do it?
Do you have a relationship with Garcia at all?
No.
Dick Sherman's wondering, so there's been no talk, or is there any interest in merging his UAPDA measure with your bill?
They could send them out within it if they wanted to. I don't see it doing much. It's
Yeah.
a Democrat. I just, again, I just want disclosure. I don't want all the bureaucracy. I'm sick of it.
Yeah.
50 pages or 60 pages of bureaucracy to say release it. Obviously, they're putting something in there where they're not going to be releasing it. And I don't know how clear I can make that because
you just don't trust them.
I don't trust the government to pour water out of a boat if the instructions are written on the heel.
Yeah. And it also kind of has sounded or felt like the more bringing you all into the SCIF, ... the more you aren't looking to them for an answer because they keep running you off.
It's the end of the SCIF. You bring somebody into the SCIF and they tell you something, then it is secret and they're not allowed to. And that is the way they lock this stuff down.
Yep.
They tell you in the SCIF, and then then you're not allowed to talk about it, and you suffer. You criminal charges literally.
Yeah. And so that, yeah, and you kind of see that as an intelligence game they're playing, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's another question from our friend Baptiste with Sentinel News. I'm just going to read it. Is Congressman Burchett facing opposition from Republicans for his reelection due to UAPs? Has that come up at all?
It did. They flew 2 people up there, and they both turned them down. My polling numbers were too high.
Oh, interesting. So they explored a run against you, but...
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They use that in the polling, and I don't know if they've read any of the recent polls, but the ones I've seen show half the dadgum country thinks that there's something else. More than half, actually. It depends on how you ask it, which demographic, but it's generally 55% and above think something else is going on out there.
Yeah. And then do you kind of attach to that? I might be confused on this, but does he use the amount of unaccounted for spending as a Trojan horse to get information out of DOD?
Yeah, I mean, they've never passed the audit. Over $500 billion of assets are unaccounted for. And so, yeah, they've got they are abusing us. And they, I don't know at what point. They don't like the fact that I call them war pimps. And every time I say it on the national news, I get people, oh, you're anti-military. And my dad fought the Japanese in the Pacific. He's a Marine, and go through it all. My wife's deceased husband was a Navy man, Master Chief in the Navy. And that's offensive to me to say that kind of stuff. They're getting away from their mission, and these endless wars we're getting into, and old men making decisions, and young men dying. That's what we've got right now.
Yeah. I mean, how do you guys, because this seems fairly bipartisan, but, just reining in DOD and the contracting community. Someone's asking, what do you think of the timeline to get clarity on where the money is going?
You'll never get clarity until we got somebody in the executive office that understands it. That understands that they are just lying, and it's a whole fiefdom unto itself.
Yeah. But you guys, I don't know, call me old school with my constitutions over here, but when's Congress gonna flex? Because when it comes to stuff like that,
they talk and they don't have the guts, neither party. The things, it's a crooked system. Both parties are in on it. When you have to raise so much money to be a chairman, and both parties do it, we've literally had people in our system that have written a check, a personal check, to become a chairman of a committee. Both parties issue a bill. It's It's not even a whispered secret up here. And it's pathetic.
Yeah. And like, because during the HASC, so separate question, because of the HASC NDAA markup, they didn't even bring up UAPs. Do you think the Rules Committee is even going to allow the Schumer's UAPDA amendment to come out as an amendment on the floor?
Won't either. I suspect somebody will figure out a way to block it somehow. It's just pathetic, really.
Yeah. But again, you're Congressman, and Congress and the Constitution is number one. Forget all of this like reality TV fixation on the White House. Like, sure, the White House has taken a lot of power that Congresses have given over time, but y'all got the power of the purse. Y'all can flex.
Logically, you'd think that we ain't got the guts to do it, either party. I mean, I get up there and I vote to cut these things. I put these bills in, and I can't even get a hearing on it. They put a good talkie in, or they'll pass it. They know they're going to pass it one body and kill it the other. They'll never bring it up to the other. It's just, to me, it's pathetic, but that's the system we've got.
Someone's asking, and I think others would have this question. Do you plan on registering the UAP caucus as an official caucus with the Congress? Would that give you more power, or is that even a thing?
It is an official caucus. I
Yeah.
mean, you just send the thing out, and there you go. It's official. You know, most of these caucuses, I'm in a bunch of them. They don't even meet. I haven't even met. Been in them since I got to Congress, and the lobbyist goes and says to their constituents, "Hey, he's a member of the woodchuck caucus." Yeah, great. We're promoting woodchucks, or whatever. And then that's how lobbyists make their money. Or you sign a letter, which is bogus, but that's what happens.
That's my understanding too. I mean, there's caucuses. This is more for our audience. There's caucuses for everything. There's like dog caucus, and there's horse caucus, kitty caucus. And so I don't think there's an official registration for any caucuses. If there is one, send it to me and I'll pass it on to the congressman, because I don't think we know about it. Someone's also asking, they're saying, let me just read it. I thought it was legal for Congress to divulge classified information during speaking on the House Senate floor. Are they mistaken on that? Like, I think we've seen that done in the past with Pentagon Papers, if I'm not mistaken. Or is that
The Pentagon Papers, that was released to the media, and they got it. It was gotten illegally, but they said that it was the person who released it didn't have he didn't have direct knowledge of the theft or something, so it was okay. You get in trouble if you start talking about classified stuff on the floor.
Yeah. And I think that you are correct. Historically, I think Washington Post, New York Times, some others had released it, so it was already in this nebulous area and in the public sphere. Someone else, Jane I, is asking, what about field hearings? Has been any recent discussion of them?
Yeah, we can do them. Again, anybody can do a field hearing, and but it's getting people to show where you would do it. The trick is to do it at some place where they don't want you there, and you're going to disclose some valuable information by doing it. And we've talked about it. I just don't know that that's where we need to be. I'm going to have another meeting since you give me so many ideas, see where we're at and all this stuff, and try to get some stuff back in the system. I just, I don't want to have another hearing that's not going to bring any new information out. So many of these folks have, they talked about it on these alien TV shows and all this other stuff. I sit here and talk to you about stuff. I'm sure people say, "Well, I didn't know that." So it's just, I want to make sure it's pertinent and we're doing something that's going to bring information to the people and not just be more frustrating.
Do you, someone else, and I meant to ask this initially before I started going through other questions online. Are you in, are you crafting a whistleblower protection measure in light of
Yeah,
the,
we've talked about that. We're working with some legal people and try to get something a little better that's out there. Again, I mean, if somebody's going to do illegal stuff, they're going to go after these people. They're going to go after them. You know, we can put all we want on paper and say all this stuff, but the reality is it's not getting us anywhere.
yeah. And I guess Dana Sheehan gave a talk yesterday at City and said the fact that the executive branch has final veto power over the UAPDA board members and what gets released. Is there any chance of a bill being proposed where the executive branch won't get that kind of influence over the board?
Say it again, I'm not following.
Within the UAPDA Act, there's a board that's set up, and it
Yeah.
seems the questioner says that the executive branch gets kind of final veto over what those board members are.
Yeah.
Would you want that stripped out, or would you want?
Yeah. I'm oversimplistic about it. Just release the DACA files.
Yeah.
All this is just what I said before. All this is new, a new bureaucracy, and they're going to say, yeah, we're going to get this stuff released, and you know whatever it is, they got 300 days. I can't remember what they said it was going to be, but whatever it was, it ain't going to do anything. And you know, by then that gives them so much time to cover up so much. Because the problem is you don't know what they're covering up. So are they really releasing everything? So a wink and a nod kind of thing. That's why the only way you ever get this stuff out is if you have somebody in the executive office says enough is enough. We're releasing this stuff. Here's your deadline, or we're going to hold you in contempt.
And yet all America gets to choose from is two senior saints in November. Senior saints who they've both seen before, and both parties are like, meh. At this point last year, you were in talks with Comer and McCarthy. This comes from our buddy Ronak. Have you guys, are you not talking as much this go round to Comer and his people on oversight? Or
no, we're good. We just, you know, honestly, every time I'm on a program like this or on the national news, another person comes and talks to me, and then I'm thinking, crap, that's somebody else I should have on there. And I got to figure out, we really just got to lock it down and just figure out what we want to discuss at this next one.
Yeah.
And I've said that I'd like to see some people, some higher ups, and some people from the scientific community.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's a lot of it too. We get blowback from the not so scientific community saying this is bogus, and yet these scientists are telling us that in fact it's real.
So it kind of feels like this year, unlike last year, there's not that big pushback. And
no, because the UFO community stood up, and they stood strong on this thing, and I think it scared the others. That's how their new tactic's going to be to discredit all of us.
And then Speaker Johnson, so he's not an impediment. He's just.
No, we had a meeting in Knoxville, my hometown, and we talked about that, and he gave me his okay to go forward with it. And so I'm excited about that, but I just don't want to blow it. I just don't think we're getting too many more bites of the apple.
Yeah, and so and that's interesting.
If we have a meeting and nobody shows up, no media, then we're screwed, because there will be no pressure on Congress to do the right thing.
Yeah. Well, no, if you guys do a hearing, the media will show up. I don't know how good the coverage is going to be, but if the future is like the past, the media will at least come for that and then forget about it the next day.
Okay. Yeah, I agree.
Have you contacted SAPOC, SAPOC, and the SCIF? Someone's asking. They're alongside the DOE and DOE staff.
I don't recall.
Cool. I know you got to go here in a minute, but here's another one. I'm curious what he thinks about low energy nuclear reaction technology. You heard of that in regards to the MH370 videos? That one feels a little, yeah, that one feels a little in the weeds.
Yeah, it's a little in the weeds. I get a lot of, I get a lot of these inquiries, and I'm not I'm the oddball out. It took me 6 years to get a degree from the University of Tennessee. I didn't drink or smoke pot. I did enjoy my college life, though. And so I'm not, I'm not an engineer. I'm not a doctor. Don't have any really great skills other than I was fortunate enough to know how to get elected to office and to work hard and tick off a lot of people. So
we know you make a mean skateboard.
I do make a mean skateboard. That is true. And I've got people all over the country want those dadgum things. I can't.
Now, someone else.
Hey, working on a new formula on my bamboo skateboard, so I'm excited about that. But anyway, we've got some this weekend, as a matter of fact.
Someone else is asking. Grusch gave a list of cooperative and hostile witnesses. What have they done with this list? Are you planning to subpoena any of them? I know you guys don't technically have subpoena power yet, but
well, the committee does. The committee can, and
the oversight committee, yeah,
and that'll be part of the next hearing. Some of those folks.
Yep, that'll be part of the next hearing. Some of those folks.
Again, I'm afraid to give out too many names because, as you know, what happened the last time. We had like 12 people that were coming in. We ended up with 3. The 3 were dynamite. Don't get me wrong, but
yeah,
we could have. We had some people that were scared of it, and so I'm going to be very cautious this go around.
Is there any chance of getting a UAP subcommittee, or what is that question? I mean, I think listeners, viewers don't necessarily get how much 2024 and the election in November has really kind of sucked all the policy air out of this town, and even a lot of UAP caucus members are in tight re-elections.
Yeah. It's going to be tough, with you're right, with elections going on. So I'm a little concerned about that. I don't want to put any of our members in jeopardy because of this.
Yeah. So do you think
the UAP community is not a wealthy community? They have a wealth of knowledge, and but they're not setting the woods on fire helping us get elected out here.
Yeah. And so do you think, like, I haven't heard much, if any, conversation of a UAP subcommittee recently. Do you think maybe in November after November, that we might start hearing talk of that? Or do you think that?
Yeah, that'd be an excellent thing. Yeah.
Yep. We got a Knoxvillian here who says, how important is this issue really?
It's incredibly important. Tens of millions of your tax dollars are being spent on an issue that they say does not exist. We need to, and when government thinks that we can't handle it, that's when we really need to double down and find out exactly what they're doing with that money and what's going on. Because if there's in my wildest dreams that this is some conspiracy to keep us from having important information that could solve a lot of problems in this world because of our greed and stupidity, we refuse to pursue it. So yeah, it's a real issue. And I'll argue transparency any day of the week. I don't care if it's any member of the media will not disagree with me on the transparency issue. So that's the issue. It's transparency.
You'll have to talk to Professor Laszlo. I'm conflicted on that transparency question between my professorial side and my reporting side, but that's a question for another day. Now, someone's going to put you in the hot seat here. What's the best barbecue spot in Knoxville?
When my wife gets chickens and I break out my mama's barbecue sauce.
And that's a top secret recipe?
No, it's very, it's like, there's only 3 or 4 ingredients in it. There's a little tomato ketchup, some Tabasco sauce, and some corn syrup. Give it a little sweetness, maybe a little brown sugar if you really want to get a little crazy. But it's just that reminds me of my mama, and that's the best there is. She
Right.
was an incredible woman. She was spectacular.
Well, and that is what they always say. Best recipes are just a few ingredients. So we're gonna let you go here in a minute. Someone's asking, why not double down and get to the bottom of how the money is being spent? What's the timeline for that?
I would love to know that. It's just when you only have half a dozen members of Congress who are willing to take on the industrial war complex, that's kind of a problem.
Yeah. Well, brother, as always, thank you so much for your time, and we want to thank our audience. Sorry for the technical glitches, everyone, but in this town and in these jobs, we're always fluid. So yeah, thank you for being fluid, Congressman, and thank you so much for your time, for your staff's time. You're handsome.
The media said many times the camera makes love to me. So
we'll get you back on camera soon. Well, hey, thank you so much. And the whole audience says, thank you for your time, brother.
Thank you, brother. It's always a pleasure. And thank you, specifically you, because you're one of the sole ones out there who takes this issue serious day after day. And if it wasn't for you, a lot of this stuff wouldn't get out to the public.
Dude, it's so true. Like, my biggest critique, this is Professor Laszlo speaking, of my colleagues is they have no memory. And I think a lot of it's because they don't read, but literally, remember start of last year, the invasion of the Chinese spy balloon, and then the Air Force shooting down 3 separate objects, or pardon me, 4 objects total. And who else of my colleagues has asked about that? No one's fixed the problem. We just stopped asking about it.
Exactly right. Thanks, brother.
All right, man. Appreciate you. Be well, sir.
You too. See you on the hill.
Yeah. See you tonight. All right, y'all. That is it. Thank you so much for working with us through all the glitches. A lot of you, I called the audible and I just moderated your questions, so I know I missed a lot of questions. Please send them in. Yeah, because I want to ask your questions to your lawmakers. Let's keep these jackasses accountable. That he's a jackass. Just Congress and generally a bunch of jackasses. All right, with that, love y'all. Appreciate you. And again, yeah, send us those comments and or pardon me, send me those questions and comments, and we'll hopefully get them answered. Or you'll hear the lawmakers squirm as they try to get away from you. Thank you. Hasta luego.